Welcome to Cheapskate Garage.
Welcome back to another episode of Cheapskate Garage. Sorry I haven't posted anything for a while. As you can see, the S10's still down. I've been doing some other stuff, helping the family out and whatnot, so had to put everything on hold. But good news is we got my father-in-law moved into a new place and he is happy, and I want to say I appreciate every one of you that donated, that helped out. Really appreciate it. But today is what we're going to do, is we're going to work on my wife's Yukon. We ordered brakes for it probably about 2 months ago, and I've been putting it off. So today's the big day. It's a little cold outside, but we're going to go through how to put on brakes on a 2014 Yukon, and this is probably going to be applied to all GM full-size trucks, SUVs, anything from a Cadillac Escalade to a GMC Sierra, Silverado, that nature. So stay tuned. I'll go through one side on how to do it. I'm not going to do the other side because the other side is going to be exactly the same, just a little bit different. And we're going to put on new rotors and new pads. So here we go. So I'm just going to have great luck recording this with the leaf blower going in the background. You guys aren't going to be able to hear what I'm saying. But break the lug nuts loose. You need a 22mm socket or the equivalent in the standard. After you break the lugs loose on both sides, then you want to go ahead and lift up one side at a time. On these full-size Chevys, right there is where I like to put the jack, and I'll show you where to put the tire once I take it off. I got the wheel off, and I'm starting to get the impression that the neighbor guy just wants to blow leaves in circles because he doesn't want to talk to his wife or something. I don't know, but let me show you this. So I got the jack in there, and I got the tire underneath here. If that jack were to fall out, this tire is still going to support the vehicle. We're only working on the outside of the wheel right in here, right in there, so I'm not worried about putting a jack stand under it. Plus, all my jack stands are currently being used. So there's a bolt that goes in through here. It's a 19mm, and it goes into here. These are your guide pins. They slide in and out. They should have grease inside here or anti-seize, and if they don't, put some lube on them when you take this thing all the way apart. Well, you can see the paint's baked off of them. That's pretty typical. I'm not too worried about that. They should still work just fine. They were working just fine. The only problem is these rotors are a little bit warped and it was shaking the steering wheel. And honestly, these pads are probably got a ton of life left in them, but if you don't change out the pads when they start and the rotors when they start when the steering wheel starts shaking when you're applying the brakes, it's going to cause all the bushings in your steering to want to go out and in your suspension to go out. It's hard on the whole vehicle. This thing runs and drives perfectly right now, so I want to keep it up to snuff. Let me show you what I got so far. So right here, this is the outside one. I went ahead and put a mark on it. The other side should have a couple rings on it from the pistons right here. Those pistons we're going to have to push back, and I should pop the hood and make sure that the brake reservoir isn't topped off. Let me explain. So a lot of the times when you go in to have your car serviced, topped off with oils or fluids, they'll top off your brakes. I never do that. The reason why I don't do that is because you can see the level that's in your oil reservoir or your brake fluid reservoir. You can see the level in that, and you can determine how much brake pad you actually have left. If you knew 2 years ago it was tippy top full and now it's at the bottom, it might be time to replace your brakes. You might want to go and take a look at it. So that's why I never top off the brake fluid. However, this truck is fairly new to us, so it could be topped off from the day we bought it. I don't know. But Judging by these pads, they still look like they got a lot of life left in them. So that's probably what it is. So these are your metal tabs. I don't know if my kit has new ones in them, but you should just be able to slide this brake pad right out of there. It's coming. There it is. And I put that mark on it. Yeah, plenty of life left on that one. And you should be able to do the same with the backside there. So since we are going to be putting new rotors on this, we got 2 more steps we got to take. And I'll show you. The outside here has to come apart. It has to come off. Not only that, but we have a screw here. If you end up ruining that screw taking this apart, it's not the end of the world. I think that's a T25, it looks like, maybe a T30. But if you don't put that back, it's not the end of the world. The outside here has to come apart. It has to come off. Not only that, but we have a screw here. If you end up ruining that screw taking this apart, it's not the end of the world. I think that's a T25, it looks like, maybe a T30. But if you don't put that back, it's not the end of the world. So I just want to take a note. This is the passenger side of the car. When you install slot and cross rotor brakes, these are the slots, these are the cross drills. The inner one always goes first. So that way when it trails, you got the outside one out here. The left and the right are reverse drilled from each other, so you always want to make sure of that. So here's your slide pins right here. You want to pull them out. You want to take a look at them. You want to make sure there's no rust and that they're adequately lubricated. You also want to take a look down inside the hole and see if there's any rust buildup. I'll tell you why. Rust can build up on the back side of that after your brakes wear down so far, and it'll build up, and now when you go to put your new rotors or your new pads in the next time, you're not going to be able to do it. So you got to make sure that that is clean and clear before you reassemble it. Real quick, a screwdriver in here pops these off, and all 4 of them are the same when you get them in the kit. If you don't get them in the kit, use the old ones, keep them there. So we got 1 and 2 in just like that. Let's go ahead and put this bracket back in. So real quick, you got your 18mm bolt down there, and you got your 18mm bolt up here. Right here. Alright, we got that on, and everything's looking really good. If you made it this far, we're about onto that part, which is the hardest part. Let me show you how I do it. So the first step is put your old pad back in there. Get yourself a C-clamp. I'm going to have to back it out a second. 1 second. I'll show you what this is all set up. So set your C-clamp up like this. It takes a fairly good size C-clamp. They actually make tools to do this. But the reason why you want to use the brake pad is because you got to push on both pistons at the same time to be able to return them. Otherwise, if you just push on one, the other one will come out. It's all hydraulic forces. But set it up like that. You can push on this one, take it off, push on this one, make sure you get them all the way in there. If you don't get them all the way back in there, you're never going to get it back on. Try to record this here. As I turn this and tighten it up, you can see it's drawing this one back and this one's following. If I had this more in the center, it'd probably do a better job of it. But we'll just go until it doesn't want to go no more. Your brake kit should come with a little packet of grease. You want to make sure you have the right brake pad for the correct one. Put a little bit on there and spread it around with your finger. This goes on the back side of the brake pad against your pistons. And this will help keep the vibration and the squealing down when you're under hard braking. So after you lubricate them, you just slide them back in. They're kind of held in with a little bit of retention by the spring clips, but that's not a big deal. You just got to kind of wiggle them in there. It's hard to film and do it at the same time, but go ahead and then you put your caliper back on. When you go to tighten these back up, make sure you put a 19mm wrench here and tighten this back down with the socket. Hand tight as you can get it. This should be, when you're all said and done, should be able to wiggle back and forth until you get brake pressure built up back up. So that's basically all there is to doing brakes. If you're not comfortable doing the brakes, or if you get lost doing the brakes, make sure you only take apart one side at a time. Because if worst case scenario, you could take apart the other side and look at what's wrong on the other side. Especially with drum brakes. But if you don't feel confident to do it yourself, I suggest take it to a shop, Brakes are one of the critical features on a car. You kind of need them to stop. The only other thing I got to say is, when you get back out on the road, make sure you pump your brakes a couple of times before you even leave, before you even put it in drive. And what else can I add? Take it slow. When you're first driving your car, take it slow. Make sure they're working. And then work into them. They should be just fine. I don't think I'm going to have a single issue with this car. So here we got both sides done. I've washed my hands. I've started up the vehicle. I haven't hit the brakes yet. I wanted to film this because I wanted to make sure you guys all understood what I meant. You're going to have a squishy pedal when you get back in it. See? All the way to the floor. Now it's starting to get firm. There we go. There we go. That's about where it should be right there. You can see what I was talking about. The brakes went right to the floor. If you had to stop this thing, if you had gunned it, put it in reverse, and if I drove it off and I had to stop this thing, I would have gone right to the floor and the truck still would have been driving. So make sure you hit that brake pedal a few times after you start it up. Get the brakes all pumped up. Now it's time for a test drive. I'm going to go break them in real quick, go run a quick errand for my wife, and call it a night. But thanks for watching Cheapskate Garage. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment down below. If you got any questions on what I did here, feel free to ask. I think the longest part of this job was finding all the tools. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Save yourself some money. We'll catch you next time.